and welcome to the Green Door Life Elevated Frequency Podcast. I'm coming to you live. My name is Shannon Morse, and I'm here with my lovely co-founder and business wife, Lisa Kirby, and also our very special guest today, our lead men's coach as we are launching our men's division, the one and only Nathan Wirt. Hello, Nathan.
Thank you, Shannon. Hello.
Woo, woo, woo. Okay, you guys. So we have a really exciting show for you today. We have been actually doing this in the background inside of Green Door. We've been coaching and providing the education for men and women over the past 5 or 6 years and greater before the Green Door Life was the Green Door. But interestingly enough, because Lisa and I are females, we will naturally magnetize women to us. However, there's a whole world of men out there who also could really benefit from this education. And Lisa's husband, Chanley, and Nathan actually came in to become a part of our men's coaching ecosystem about 2 years ago. Does that sound about right?
That's right.
So today we're going to kind of talk about just the two, like moving into doing this men's work in a greater capacity as we launch our first men's group coaching cohort, which is going to be led by Nate. But the first thing I want to get into here is kind of how our journeys came to be here. And I think this is fun to talk about, you guys, because Nathan and I used to be roommates. And during that time of being roommates, I got to see the full spectrum personality of Nathan shine in so many different ways. And I liked to catch it on camera.
Yes, you did.
So, and this happened to be at one of the periods where I was learning a lot about nutrition and training. And so, Nate, I just want to kind of bring us into this point in time and go, what was it like for you as you started to be in the osmosis of health and nutrition as roommates?
Yeah, it was interesting because it was like I was getting introduced to myself all over again, because you would catch these videos of me doing health related or food related quirky things, and then you'd show me the videos, and then I'd be like, yeah, I do have some funny things that I do, like you mentioned eating frozen spinach out of a bag and just kind of chatting on the phone like it was normal. I was like, that is kind of a funny thing to do. I didn't really think about that. It was really cool because I was watching you as you were developing, as you were stepping up and increasing your awareness of health and coaching, the huge mental aspect. In fact, I think early on, that was the first real introduction I had to what it's like to coach, because I was watching you going through it. And you were letting me know the process where there's the general physics and the general chemistry of our bodies and our brains, where you were having these very long talks and very long walks. I remember one time particularly, you mentioned having an older client who you guys would go on a walk for an hour and just talk about whatever. And then it would segue into the mental health and segue into the actual physical health. And that was the most kind of unique introduction I had in that process for me. So I was like, this is interesting. Coaching people is a fascinating process, as well as just the chemical and the physics standpoint for the body.
Absolutely. That's so cool that you're sharing that. Yeah, go, Lisa, I can tell.
I was going to say I think there's that misconception out there in the kind of health and fitness world, although it's changing really rapidly. Like the way of the future is you can't really be an expert in just one modality anymore, right. Whether that's personal training or nutrition coaching or whatnot. It's kind of like you need the trifecta, at least with the mindset piece, and like, how do we actually implement this? And like, how do we actually coach? What I love about your background, Nate, is can you share a little bit more about your kind of day job, from engineering to ship life? We just love hearing what you're doing, from day to day, and then also how that infuses into your unique style of coaching that's like so powerful and effective.
Sure. Yeah, Lisa, it's kind of a patchwork. It's a little bit interesting. I'm a marine engineer, and I've been doing that for 20 years now. So I work with ships. I used to be on a ship as an engineer and a mechanic and a welder, and turned into being more of a management kind of thing. And now I'm a manager of ships on land. fascinating field and I love it. And on the side, I'm very much interested in health and the health of the people around me. And I love coaching. It's fantastic to watch people improve their lives. So I really enjoy the balance of the two. And what's funny is as I go with life, more and more I see two separate things kind of connecting as we go with time, and how a lot of things in life kind of do that. There's these general principles in the universe, and you start to see how things kind of can relate to each other. So it just so happens in my engineering, the way that I would work with tracking machines and tracking chemistry of water, or just the maintenance scheduling, I started to find I could use some of those tricks and some of those spreadsheets to assist in allowing a person to look at themselves a little bit from the mechanical side for a second, and then implement also the mental side. But it really gives a good history and it gives a good projection of where we're going. So I kind of infuse those together. I like it. I think my clients like it. It works out pretty well.
I love that. I love that about you, Nate. And I think we kind of started to connect that very early on when we were talking about you becoming a coach with the Green Door. And we were really kind of diving in the objective viewpoint that we can take about what progress looks like over time, and having a little bit of separation, like you're saying, and giving clients a way to witness themselves that's a little bit more of that zoomed out version and seeing a longer life cycle of what's possible.
Yeah.
And I think that your capacity to do that with that engineer's mind is such a cool combination as a coach in the health and fitness field. And I can see how it just is infused into the coaching practices that you do and how supportive it is for the individuals that you're working with. It's really neat to see. So
yeah, thank you. I feel like it really having a framework in a big picture really gives people confidence and understanding where they are. It's like a map. If you were to look at one small segment of a travel anywhere, it's going to be confusing as to like, well, where did I come from? Where am I going? I don't know. I just saw this little squiggly. But if you've got a big map, you've got a big context, a framework to see what's going on, it eases things up and allows a person to become a little more comfortable and say, yeah, I'm heading towards my destination. That's what I needed.
Totally. And so before you kind of arrived at building this kind of toolbox for yourself and moving into that state, what was kind of the journey for you from when we lived together? Because it's about a 10-year span almost. Like when we were roommates into like your own health and fitness journey, and then kind of arriving back to coaching and being a part of the Green Door.
Yeah, absolutely. It started just with me trying to figure out how to understand my body, give it what it needed. I had aesthetic motivations initially, just I want to feel good the way I look, the way I fit in my clothing. And so it was really trial and error through a lot of programs. I ended up, I'm kind of a nerd. I like to put my studying into whatever I'm doing. So I really went after a lot of the top PhDs in the field, some of the heavy hitters and the industry movers. And I started to study from them. And I started to look at how they looked at the body and expectations and how we can make changes and reasonable changes from a natural perspective versus when people start doing other things less natural. And as I learned, I ended up hiring a coach, just a lot like what we do with clients. I hired a coach at one time, and I ended up working with him for about a year. He was one of the industry leaders, and I plagued him with questions perpetually and what ifs. And I told him in advance, I was like, if I hire you, I expect you to be able to come up with answers. I don't want to just know about my body. I want to know why this is going, and why you do what you do. And he had the patience and took me through for a year. And really, we went through so much good info. And really, what's interesting is I knew a lot of the building blocks of what he was showing me from learning, reading books. Nowadays, I think a lot of that's through Instagram or TikTok. But having him connect the dots as a professional who had just seen a lot of volume of clients made all the difference. And it gave me that real respect for a coach-client scenario, especially when blood sugar is low, especially when you're starting to get emotional, because we all do when you're in a deficit. Having him to stay there and be like, no, this is what's going on. You're fine. I've seen it 1,000 times. And that tied together those building blocks, I did the same thing again with strength training with another coach, and learned leaps and bounds, and really started to get a love for it. And I was watching you at that time because your company was thriving because you're doing so much for so many people. And we were talking more and more about me doing it with you, working with you, learning from you. And it was all coming together in my head. And I was really starting to, that's when I started to really get that draw towards wanting to work with people and start to spread some of that information.
I love it. And it's such a cool way to go about it. Like, I love that you went through that experience and got that coaching for yourself first. Because I really believe, I mean, this is what we say for all of our coaches. Like, you have to know what it's like to be coached before you can be an effective coach for somebody else. Yeah. Like, you have to have walked that path and be the receiver of the information before you can effectively be the giver of the information. Right. And so I love that you did that with both the training aspect and the nutrition aspect, and got to see what it was like for yourself, and then absorb the knowledge from those people and absorb the modalities from them as well. And so I'm curious, what about the structure of the Green Door Life and what you learned from those coaches? How are they different, and where are the similarities?
Yeah, where this is different entirely is that it's holistic. And really what we're finding in science, doctors, anyone who's paying attention, it's not like being holistic is its own little area. We are holistic. It's just a matter of recognizing it or not. Mm-hmm. If you're going through some mental issues, if your stress is out of control, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be considered. And a lot of the other programs out there, they're kind of just throwing some raw data and some raw coaching. And it's mainly about, like, are you lifting or are you not lifting? You hitting your macros. And what you do is you're willing to open up and say, what's going on in your life? Kind of like when we first started and I was watching you coaching that older gentleman, and just what's going on in your life. And then come to find out there's something that needed to be addressed that would have precluded being able to go through some of the stressors of being in a deficit. Mm-hmm. You can't have all stressors everywhere. You got to pick and choose. And a deficit is some work, being in a caloric deficit. And so you also holistically, just in the training side, you've got this great platform with giving workouts straight to somebody's phone, with having schedules of workshops where they're ready or needing to. You got meditation. You were just encompassing the full span of a person's life and what they're going through. And truly, I think that that's going to be the only way for a good number, if not the majority of people entering into this.
Absolutely. And Lisa and I have thank you for saying that, because as you reflect back, it's just interesting to kind of confirm what Lisa and I have already, developed and looked at over a period of time, is that so many of the modalities that have been available in the past for us have been in one bucket. They've been only, you're just a personal trainer, but you sometimes give some protein tips. And then you are just a nutrition coach, but you don't really touch the training. You'll give a training plan that's you give to everybody as a starting point. But no one will really start to go into the emotional factors. And to your point with the gentleman that you're referring to, who was a client of mine for 10 years total, the way that I saw the algorithm of his life unfold in the stressors that would come up and evolve, his children would have kids, and then they would have hard relationships, and he would have hard relationships, and he would go through career changes and financial changes. And it all showed up in how he would breathe when we were walking, which was so wild. And he had some pre-diabetic symptoms as well. And so we were going through that, but it was I realized that I was becoming his AI.
Like his biofeedback.
I was his biofeedback. Yeah. I was like, hey, remember last year we did this same hill and you actually completed it 5 minutes faster today than you did last year. That's a benefit. You're improving. Did you know that? And so I think where I love about this, and where I love about your engineer brain and bringing that in, is that you're taking in all of that data, not just the nutrition, not just the training, the stress, the hunger cues, the emotional aspects, what's happening in people's lives. Like right now, you have some of your clients who are going through big life changes.
Right.
And being able to zoom out and look at how those are needle movers and then reflecting it back to them.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's very powerful. Very
Yeah.
I love too, Nate. If you aren't following Nate on Instagram, please do. Coach Nate GDL. Like you'll see Nate popping up on a ship doing push-ups outside. Where can you share a little bit more about how you make this doable and accessible for like general population? Because I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that people need to be spending hours a day training, and all three of us are like, we don't. we're working a lot on the computer a lot, or whatever you're doing on the ship, and finding these small little practices to make it work.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it really comes down to the fortunate thing that the whole system is designed, like our universe and our bodies and our minds are designed quite amazingly. And so a healthy life is designed to roll into your life. There's no reason why your practices have to somehow be some extraordinary thing or require some extraordinary drug, that's becoming very popular. A healthy life to be our best, it's designed to wrap into what we do and how we live. And it can totally, going on a walk in the morning is such a good thing. And I think we all know that that's like kind of what we want to do anyway. So it fits. When your strength training process is 3 hours long in one setting, that's because you're doing it incorrectly for your body in your life. Where you take, I think that we have a natural span of 40 to 50 minutes where we can focus on something effectively. And it just so happens that getting a 40-minute workout is phenomenal. And it's exactly kind of what works out into your life the way you're designed. And it doesn't have to be a particular gym. I mean, we can get some benefits from going to the regular gym. But for me, I travel a bit for work, and I've got my movements. So like a push-up, pull-up routine. I do some other stuff that's a little more intricate, but still I can do most places. I visit ships. I'm in hotels all over the world. I was in Korea last week, and it can fit in very well. And a lot of my traveling clients, I love working with them and even getting them to the point where they're showing me how they're going to just put a muscle under tension, get their mind into a focused state, breathe, reset, and then go handle work a lot better than they would have in the first place. So it's designed to fold in on each other and contribute to each other, and the same goes for nutrition. Nutrition is a huge part of what we do here at Green Door Life. And in most places, the system is designed to be there and help you help yourself. If you're paying attention and knowing what you're looking for, and you're feeding yourself in the right ways, the right intervals, you can energize yourself and improve your day. It's not something that has to kind of be at odds with your day,
Yes. So good. So good. It's like not this, I think that's the big thing. It's like not this separate monumental thing that you have to carve. It's really about making it a lifestyle so that it becomes like brushing your teeth. And it's not the how to implement it is the simplicity of it. It's not always easy, but the tools and the cadence and the consistency part is like, that process is very simple. You need to move your body, you need to fuel it properly. And that's exactly what we teach. Nate, can you also share a little bit more? Because not only, you've definitely worked with women, which is so cool, because I think I personally love watching that as well, because let me put it this way. You don't allow women or men to get like caught up indefinitely in the stories that limit us. Right? So you're really able to kind of pull us through with that zoomed out data and the bigger focus at mind, and help us stay focused and not get stuck in our stories, right? And our self-limiting beliefs. But also we've seen you support people who are much older, than we are, which then brings it beyond this kind of aesthetic or body composition goal. But can you share a little bit about what you noticed with certain family members and coaching your own dad, and how that has improved, his health and longevity?
Sure. Yeah. 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 My first client actually was a girl, and I worked with her for a year. And this was before I was a professional at this. I just studied, and she really wanted to exact some changes. So I worked with her. She's now a like a tier 1 Equinox trainer herself because she loved it so much. She quit her normal career and liked that a lot. So yeah, I've really had the benefit of working with people of all walks of life, and it's always so rewarding because in the end, your body wants to be healthy, your mind wants to be healthy. And so we're just going on this walk towards that. And no matter what your age, no matter what you're going through, there's a direction that's healthy and there's a direction that's not. And as it applies to, my father. So my father ended up, he lived in the South for a while and he ended up getting pretty big. They have good food down there. I wasn't so much paying attention to that. I wasn't able to see him very frequently. And he came to me at one point. He was like, so it looks like I'm going to have to get this operation on my ankle. It's thinning cartilage due to sports when he was a kid. And the doctor's now saying they're pretty much going to have to just kind of fuse the whole ankle and incapacitate it for him to be able to walk with it with not too much pain. And so I was like, hold on now, let me see. So I kind of got together with him and I saw that he was probably about 50 pounds heavier than his body wanted to be. So, and he's in his 80s. He's had open heart surgery. He's gone through a bit, but none of that means that his body doesn't want to be healthy and that there isn't a path to being healthy. None of that precludes, but it does require a good coach who can see what's the path for right now. The path for right now is not a bunch of yoga and HIIT cardio, you know, and that's where having the coach is important. So I started to work with him and we eased our way into hydration, which was way off, and then understanding macronutrients, micronutrients. And long story short, it took us about a year, but he's down 40 pounds and he can walk all over the place now, no operation. He's extremely ecstatic. He actually wants to start coaching people. And what's interesting, he's a chiropractor, which it's a profession I highly respect. A lot of my family are chiropractors, and it does cover a lot of the holistic bases, but it does miss a few. And again, it's why it's so important for us to be complete humans in our understanding of health and understanding excess calories and how no matter what it is, the excess calories are there. We've got a toxicity issue that's going to start to take us the other direction from health. So that was a wonderful thing to be a part of. We bonded. Sometimes it was harder, but in the end, it was amazing. It's good to do.
There's so much about that story that I love. I mean, first and foremost, when I heard that you had coached your dad and that he had had such an incredible transformation, I was really like my heart was swelling. You know, I was like, God, this is so cool. You know, like this is why we do this. Like if we can't help the people that we love to have a more fulfilled life, then like kind of what better thing is that? And especially if we're able to give it to our parents. So there's that. And then the second thing is that I love what you're saying, Nate, which is the body wants to be healthy.
Yeah.
That the body actually desires to be at an equilibrium in its own state. It does not desire to feel lethargic. It doesn't desire to feel fatigue. It doesn't desire to feel pain. Like these are things that are outside of what it naturally wants in its ecosystem. And I love that you're just saying that because it's so straightforward and it's so accurate in my experience.
Yeah. There's one other people group too, and this is where I would a lot of times chime in for whatever reason. A lot of times, ladies after giving birth, and really just a lot of the recovery, something I don't know anything about going through myself, but Lisa, you'd be a resident expert. But I loved it when, like, with coworkers or friends after that, they'd be like, "Oh, I'm just going through it, and I don't know, I wouldn't even know how to be healthy or start to turn it around." And I really liked. It felt like such a tugging position. Like it's okay if you can't go run a marathon. In fact, that's not necessary. You have all sorts of things that we could start to work on that your body wants and your mind wants. It's going to end up working with you well. So don't be disheartened by the fact that because I've never run a marathon. It's not necessary. You don't have to have that all or nothing. Every trend of health has to be here now. That's not what health is. Health is just what's your body ready for at the moment, as a side jaunt.
I love that. Like, what is the most nourishing thing right now? I was thinking about that the other day, that there's such a slippery slope. And we talk about this a lot for women, but it's also applicable to men. It just takes a little bit longer to see it manifest. Is that many self-care practices are a little bit of a stressor on the body. And you have to find that line. You have to toe that line between finding the most effective dose without overdoing it one way or the other. So
Right.
not underdoing something or overdoing something, and then when is the right time to focus on it. That is really a conversation that needs to be had. And it's so interesting you notice that trend. It's like after women giving birth and then they're like want to run a marathon or a 10K, I'm like, how about we just like go for a walk, and let's start there. Let's just bring it down a tad. Like, we don't need to go with these monumental goals. That would be a challenge for someone who didn't just give birth, right?
Totally. And be happy with it. Not feel like, oh, this is such a bad compromise that I can only go for this walk. It's actually exactly what your body wants. Because of the stressors, you got a lot of stressors on your system, and it's important to be able to gauge and balance. How do I give just the right amount of a stressor, if any, while also improving my hormones, improving my circulatory system, my muscles. And I would also say it's really nice. So kind of flip into more of the left brain side or the tracking side that I like to rely on. A big help in understanding where the stressors start to teeter past the breaking point, or they're right where we want them, where it's like a little stimulus here and there, and you're back to good, is the way that I like to track and use my particular kind of system of a little more left brain logging, which allows us to then look back at our emotional states and our healthy states through those times and understand, up to this moment, are you really stressed or are you kind of stressed in all of the forms that there can be? And that lets us know, can we turn it up a little bit or do we dial it back a little bit? It gives us that context. So that ties into that a bit.
You're giving me ideas about spreadsheets now.
Yes, it gets into your brain.
Yes, I'm like, we'll have a whole new system after this conversation about how to track stressors and the minimal effective dose of stress in one area or the other, and then how to just move certain levers. I love this, Nate. And so as we're kind of moving into launching this new men's group cohort, which will be the first time that we've just, fully announced and even shared that we're going to be doing a men's group in this way, that you're going to be leading. Kind of, what are the things that you want people who are listening to this that are perhaps interested in participating? What are the things that you would want them to know, like kind of what to expect? And then also, who would you say that particular group would be for?
Yeah, great questions. I would say it starts with some introspection and asking yourself, are you ready for some life changes? Good life changes. We're not going to pull away from your work or your family or your kids, but are you ready to change some things up? Willing to see that things are not going to be exactly the same? And I think that's one of the first things that we would want to ask. If not, check back in a little later, and maybe that'll be the time. It's obviously a group for men. That's how we designed it. We felt it's time to give men a chance to be in a container with each other and get to learn from not just the coach, which we've had a lot of success and enjoyed, but from each other. So we can be able to bounce ideas. We can have shared experiences, empathy. In the world of lifting, CrossFit took off, I think, primarily not because of its injury rating, but because despite the injury problems, people love community. We're communal creatures. And to be able to have empathy from somebody else, to be able to have someone going through a shared experience is very bonding, and it really helps fuel that strength to keep going, or maybe to avoid that cupcake, because, when we have a talk later on, you have to explain the cupcake, or have the cupcake and explain how you made it work, because we also have that within our system. But being able to be communal, wanting to share ideas, that's a big part of it. If a person was more inclined to kind of be private and they really felt that they wanted to do this between themselves and their coach, that would be a private coaching and scenario, which is great. And we love those too. I feel that there are many people, many men in our case with this men's group, who want to feel like they can share this with other men, talk about what they're going through. And a lot of people don't realize the process of going through a change in the body or change in your habits. It's emotional. It carries emotions at times. We as men especially kind of avoid the fact that would ever be a thing, but we do have them. As a man who trains men, I watch them. They all go through emotions. Every time we get on that meeting, right away, I can see what they're going through just in the way they're breathing, their facial expressions, how convivial they are. When we acknowledge that and give it some room to breathe, it takes a lot of the weight off of some of the small stressors of strength training for the first time in a long time, maybe being in a caloric deficit, trying to drink a healthy amount of water, which most people aren't doing. And so I think it can fuel people in ways that they're not even expecting. If I could. That's a long answer.
Say every day when I'm teaching strength training class once a week now, I'm like, I'm here because you all are here. Like, this is the best thing. Like, I don't even have to really dig that deep for showing up, because I'm like, oh, I have to. And even when I just take a class, as a client, it's like the power of the community. It magnetizes, it draws you in, it makes you want to be better, do better, and really show up. So I love that you're drawing on that. I would say for the people too who feel like they are drawn to one-on-one, just be open to the potential thought of what could I benefit from the group, especially if you've done some private coaching in the past and you haven't seen as great of results. It's like the power of the community, as you're saying, is like you're going to benefit from all these other people, their different experiences. And I love the thought of, like, sometimes, again, we get caught in our own stories of, I've got too much on my plate, I've got all this. And it's like someone out there right now with the same level of stuff on their plate is still able to find a way to make it work and make it doable for them. So then you're really inspired by other people's stories.
Yeah. The shared experience, I think, can really come with some great tips as well. We as coaches learn perpetually. We're evolving. And I think it gives us a chance altogether to evolve at a little bit higher of a rate, discover something we might not have discovered, or a little trick. I mean, there's plenty of little small nuanced tips that can really speed things along in your goals for health and fitness.
Yes. And I think as we're talking about this, one of the things that I want to share for anyone who's listening and they're like, is this me? Am I going to be doing this men's group? We've had some incredible men join already. I have a little FOMO about not being in this group, by the way, because there's some amazing men that are going to be in this group, in the way that there are men that are doing big things in their life. They're playing big roles in their life, whether it's being an entrepreneur, a business owner, a leader in their field, wherever that is. And those are the men that are now being magnetized to this. And it's actually not super surprising, because if you think about that, if you want to be the best at what you do, you have to be coming from an ecosystem that is being taken care of in the best way possible. So one thing that we're seeing is some guys are coming in, should I do this now? Should I do it later? Some of the men who have already signed up have some really kind of rough things happening in their life right now. But that's not a reason to not sign up right now. If anything, that's one of the best times to have a support and have the full spectrum of experiences that are going to be also available for you to go, I'm not alone in this, that I'm not the only one that has gone through XYZ and had this experience, that there are others, and actually they are here as a part of the support and to be, guardrails as I move through this experience. I think a lot of misconceptions that individuals will have when they first start is that this is going to be hard and I have to change everything. And just like what you were sharing, Nate, is this does not have to be hard. This actually is looking to find the path of least resistance with the minimal effective dose to find out what stressor, as you're sharing, would be the stressor that is ready for you now, that your body is ready to receive and implement. So it's actually attainable for you in your life with these small incremental changes that are building over time. And then we're adjusting as we go. We go, does this work for you? No, let's change it. No problem. And I think that that is one of the things that, whether it's for the men's group or any other programs that we run, some individuals will be kind of waiting in the wings, like waiting for their life to be perfect in order for them to sign up. And I'm like, flash alert, it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
There's always going to be stuff that's happening. And you actually want the most support when shit is hitting the fan.
Yeah, that's totally correct. I don't know. I haven't seen my life get perfect yet. And, but that's got very little to do with this, because just like you said, for a lot of my clients, some of our biggest breakthroughs had nothing to do with push-ups or protein, but they tie to everything we're doing, you know? And in fact, I'm thinking more and more, it's great to have scenarios where the stress kicks in a little too much at work. It's great to have scenarios when you're going to Spain for a month. I've had clients do that. And I was like, perfect. We can talk about how I deal with going to Spain, or we can talk about what happens when you're staying up all night doing work with the boss. Or these are the scenarios. That's kind of what you want to sign up for, is how do you handle those? Because if everything was completely optimal, then you might not need nearly as much, but you're going to eventually need it because it's going to kick in. And I apply it to myself when I go through the situations of life that are perpetually kind of just like a rocking boat. And it's where we have our best breakthroughs. So if you want to get the best coaching, that's the time to do it.
So good. And on that note as well, one thing that we're implementing for this first men's group, and maybe the next ones, is we have a men's mindset call that's going to be led by Kevin McNee and Rafa Rice. And so they will hold this container for a couple of sessions inside of this men's group for like further mindset and behavior change support. So this one really is going to be cool for all of us to see, like both as like coaches in a company, but also to really see how that kind of lands. And I have no doubt that with the caliber of men that are in the group already, that you guys are really going to have like a pretty stellar time. And I'm just really excited to, be on the sidelines going, what happened? Tell me.
Yeah. Yeah. You're getting FOMO. I see it still. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. You'll catch me up.
I'm really excited about it too, because we're all evolving. I want to continue getting healthier. We all want it. And certainly I'm really looking forward to some of the mental management practices, the emotional management practices, being present, knowing how to apply assertiveness in certain pressures. This is the kind of stuff that we want. It's really high value.
Yes. Lise, can you drop us into the dates for all of the things?
Yes. Thank you for asking. If you comment men below in the comments section, if you're on Instagram or anywhere else, we'll send you all the information. Right now, it's over 50% off because this is the first time we're opening up a group format for men's coaching. And we just really want to make this just the most awesome, most accessible experience. So that's as little as a little bit over $300 a month for nutrition support, a nutrition plan, workouts, that kind of multi-tiered support of like the science and the mindset. And then you get the course for life, which is amazing. So if you join by September 20th, you get over 50% off, which is pretty incredible. And obviously, all of our channels here are about 90% female. So think about our invitation to you is pass this on. If you are moved and called, you never know when someone needs support, unless they're verbally sharing it, but just extending that offer and letting them know like, hey, this is available, especially if you're a client of ours and it changed your life. Because it starts to create this ripple effect. And something we've been talking about, which I think is the coolest concept, is we're literally changing families and generations. So we're talking about epigenetics here. And that to me is like, oh, I have chills all over, because we're now teaching, whenever anyone learns this information and implements it in their life, you have that ripple effect around you of influencing other people, maybe your spouse, your partner, your kids, whatever your setup is. And what could be cooler than that? I don't know.
So much yes. Awesome. Yay. Okay, you guys. I think we've covered like all the things.
I want some more Nate stories, TBD, on the next podcast.
Sounds good. I'll be here. Love it. Thanks for inviting me on here too, by the way. This has been awesome. I love the podcast experience. Feels like good, important stuff is happening.
It is. Important stuff is happening here, Nate, and you are part of it.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. If you were able to join us live, if you are listening to this at a later date, even if it's like a year down the road, check in on our website, thegreendoorlife.com, to see what group programs we may have on offer, because obviously these will happen throughout the year. And so just keep checking in with us. And if you are ready to join this first men's group, which is being led by Nate, so you get to spend 12 weeks with this man, this amazing engineer brain, you can drop men in the comments, especially on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, and then we will send you all the information and answer any questions that you might have as well. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Lisa and Nathan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.